Titus, I'm so sorry. That's not what I did, is it?
Look, I know you're just a sweet girl who don't know how to act.
Like Britney Spears in Crossroads?
But every time you walked into that office, you made those nerds feel scared and powerless. Like Britney Spears in Crossroads.
Hello there, and thank you for joining us on our little corner of the internet, a corner I like to call What's Your Favorite Movie? The podcast where we talk about movies and all things good. My name is Ed South, and thanks for joining us, friends. Joining me today in the luxurious What's Your Favorite Movie studios is our good friend, Movie D. Isn't that your new DJ name?
Is it?
Diana's joining us once again in the studio, and Diana brought a guest with her today.
I don't think he'll be saying much, but I have my dog with me today.
Her dog is with us today, and if anyone knows anything about me, you know how much I love animals.
And by that you mean you hate all animals.
Yes, I do. I'm a little indifferent to dogs. I hate cats and bats.
So that summer that you worked at the farm, that was a perfect job for you.
I did work at a petting zoo one. It wasn't a summer. It was at Halloween time, and it was to get over my fear of animals / feed my love of Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. And neither of those really worked, and it was a horrible experience. And I had to hold a chicken, which was gross. I milked a cow, which was kind of cool. And I got a goat's head stuck in a fence. So that's a story for another day. But welcome to the show, folks. As always, please do us a favor and join us on our social media outlets at WYF Movie Podcast on Twitter, or our email address, favemoviepodcast@yahoo.com. And of course, you can also find us on Facebook. Share us with your friends. Say, hey, this is a show I listen to. Won't you listen to? So we got a dog roaming around the studio. And of course, when I say studio, I mean basement. But hopefully it won't be too distracting. So, Diana, a couple episodes ago, we put out a call for a mailbag segment and asked people to write in, and no one did. So we want to thank everybody once again for that. But we did get an email this week for a show we did a couple of episodes ago. On episode 44, we talked about obscure and forgotten animated films, and we talked about Raggedy Ann and Andy, and was it Song of the Sea? Song of the Sea, you mentioned, and that is on Netflix now, so if anybody was interested in that, you could find it on Netflix. And was the other one, I want to say Max and Ruby, but I think that's a Nick Jr. show.
Mary and Max.
Mary and Max. Yep. So Tammy wrote us in, and we just want to say thanks to Tammy for listening to the show. She suggested 3 obscure and animated films. And these are obscure, and I assume they're animated, but obscure and forgotten because I never heard of them. The Red Shoes from 1993, never heard of it. From a studio called Golden Film. She said it's a Disney knockoff, as a lot of animation is. Tamagotchi the movie from 2007. Aren't those little like eggs where you take care of a pet, like a digital pet or something?
I guess.
You don't know.
I don't know.
And Beyblade Fierce Battle from 2002. Those were Tammy's suggestions of obscure and forgotten animated films. Animated and animated films. So, Tammy, thanks for listening. Thanks for writing in. Folks, go seek those films out if you want to see a fierce battle. May we suggest Beyblade. I can't even say it. Beyblade Fierce Battle. Another little piece of housekeeping here. If you're a regular listener to the show, which I know excludes 98% of you, we used to have a sponsor on the show, DexShirts.com. They provided t-shirts of movies and pop culture goodies, and they were a perfect fit for us. So we haven't had a commercial for them in a while, and I noticed that they weren't coming through on social media. I hadn't seen anything on Twitter or Instagram about them, so I went to go search for them, and all their social media outlets are closed, gone. And when I did a little further research, I saw some people, and look, I'm not here to besmirch the good name of Dex Shirts, but I saw a lot of people saying they had ordered shirts and paid for them, and they never got their shirts. So apparently maybe this company has gone out of business. They are unreachable. So I just thought I'd pass that on in case you listen to any old episodes and hear a commercial for Deck shirts and take my word for it that it's a quality product. They're no longer in business, apparently. So
you were lying to everyone, basically.
Well, at the time, it was a viable option. But if you go back and listen to one of our older episodes, which, by the way, you should, and you hear the commercial, please note that that company no longer exists. Although, in a way, I guess now that I'm saying it live on my show, you're not going to be able to order from them because they're out of business. So why did I even bring it up? But just so you know, they're no longer around. So that's that. So we got a couple of things to talk about today. We were going to start off with some newer movies. We don't talk about new movies all that much on the show. Sometimes. We throw them in. Couple of films we wanted to talk about. And Diana was telling me a story that I thought was humorous, as I like to say, about the film A Quiet Place. Now, that's a new movie, right? That came out like this year.
Yeah, it's pretty recent.
It stars, I believe, the Emily Blunt.
Right. The Emily Blunt.
And Jim from The Office.
Right.
Say his name. John Krafowski.
It's Krasinski, isn't it?
Krasinski.
Something like that.
And he also wrote and directed this movie.
Did he?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
I was going to ask you if it's the first film he wrote and directed, but you don't know that he did that, even so, whatever.
It sounds familiar.
So what it sounds like to me from this film, of course, it looks like a horror movie.
It's definitely suspenseful.
It has elements of horror which exclude me from watching it. It looks a little too intense for my weak ticker.
I think you'd be okay.
Yeah?
I think you'd be okay.
Would I like it?
I think you would appreciate, some of the craft of it.
Fair enough.
Let's put it that way.
Fair enough.
I think you'd be okay.
Does something horrible happen and then
yes.
Jim turns to the camera and kind of shrugs a little bit?
No, there's no shrugging. But yes, there's
John Krasinski was whatever his name was looking for some non-shrugging projects. He was kind of trying to get out of the shrugging. Okay, so the movie's about a deaf girl, right?
Well, it's not about her, but so the premise of the movie is that aliens have invaded the Earth, and these aliens they track everything by sound. So they have, very acute hearing. And so it turns out that the only way to survive this alien invasion is to be silent, which is kind of a ridiculous premise, but
it serves a purpose.
Sure. So what happened while we were watching this movie, we were watching this at home, and it started fine. We're going along. And, the movie is very quiet, obviously. It's called A Quiet Place.
It's a quiet place, a quiet film.
Yes. It's, it's very quiet. And periodically, it does sort of shift to one of the characters is deaf. It sort of shifts to her point of view. And so there is no sound. So we're going along. And at a certain point, we realized that we weren't hearing anything. There was just no sound. And so we got about 30 minutes into the movie, and the whole time we're going, is it really supposed to be this quiet?
For this long?
What's
that's
going
a ballsy
on?
Move. Yeah.
And there were some very dramatic things that happened, and there was zero sound, and we got to a point where we were like, this is not right. Something is not right here. So we restarted the movie. We got the sound fixed. I don't know why it cut out, but
I mean, of all movies for that to happen, well, you watched it on demand, right?
Right.
So who knows what happens with all that? But of all the movies,
so we restarted it, and we get the sound up, and we whatever, we're watching it, and it actually cut out a couple more times and again we did the exact same thing every time it cut out. We were going along, and after a handful of minutes we're like, all right, is it supposed to be this quiet?
Right.
I don't know. But yeah, exactly, of all the movies in all the world,
you would have to, you walked into this gin joint, you would have had to find how often does a movie be quiet for more than 30 seconds?
Right.
Or do you pick one movie? But maybe something where something went to sleep or something. My TV upstairs, the sound bar will go off if there's no action, which if there's nothing going on. So sometimes I'm sorry, it'll go off if you haven't used the remote in a while. So if I'm watching like 2 or 3 hours of television, sweet television. The sound bar will just click off after like 4 hours, I think. So yeah, who knows?
Well, I know it wasn't anything. We don't have any fancy equipment at all, so I don't know what was going on. But yeah, it figures,
right.
Of all the
if
movies.
you were watching a Michael Bay movie, there's not a second where there's not an explosion going on.
but no, I mean it is an interesting premise, and the fact that it is a very quiet movie is different. That's different
novel.
for a lot of people. I mean, there's music and sound effects and whatever, but there are long stretches of the movie where it's very, very, very quiet. And yeah, it makes you, be still and pay attention, which is an interesting experience. Some people are not able to handle that well.
I don't know if I'd want to see that in the theater, though, because like when I go to the theater, I purposely sit closer to the screen for the sound to drown out all the a-holes in the audience who are talking and playing on their cell phones. So to be dead silent, but also maybe dead silent people would like not rattle their Starburst wrapper or something throughout the whole movie.
I don't know. I mean, some of the reviews that I had read of the movie said that, like the theater experience, that everyone was really good about, being quiet and not being a-holes.
Right.
So
speaking of aliens, though, do you ever get to see the aliens in the movie? Are they?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, briefly.
Are they scary?
It's pretty scary.
Speaking of aliens, though, and we'll switch to television for just a second. Did you hear all the hubbub about they might be rebooting Alf?
Oh, no.
No, not oh, no. Oh, yes. Let us do this, please.
Yay.
There's only one thing you need to reboot Alf, and that's Alf. So I don't need any excuses that it didn't come together. It's not like Will and Grace or Roseanne where you need 7 different people.
Like I just need
Alf. I don't. What do you mean puppet? You don't need. I don't need the family. I just need. Do it. Do it. Don't tease me. When the weekend that Ted came out, remember that movie Ted with the talking teddy bear? Somebody had the idea that they could redo Alf like Ted. And then they said they're doing an Alf movie. Now, that was like 5 years ago, and we never got the Alf movie. So, okay, but enough toying around with my emotions. I better see Alf on the schedule come 2019, or there will be hell to pay. There will be hell to pay. And I'll be starting an Alf podcast No, I won't. Maybe.
Maybe.
Diana, do you want to watch all the Alf episodes?
Probably not.
And the great thing is, you probably remember the line from The Simpsons long ago. Remember Alf?
Now he's back in pog form.
I saw so many articles yesterday that the headline was, "Remember Alf? He might be back in TV form," or something like that. So great. Alf, you're the best.
That's like my favorite episode of The Simpsons. I love that episode.
Is that 23 stories about... No, that's the one where he sells his soul.
Bart sells his soul. I love that episode.
For a goldfish? What? Oh, no, that's the episode that also has... Why'd I have the goldfish, Bart? What? No. I'll pass. Do you remember?
What?
I don't know. Let's move on. You don't remember the line?
What are you talking about?
It's like that time you told me I didn't have... You killed my goldfish and didn't tell me I had a gold... And it's like the time... I'm trying to do Millhouse at the same time. It's like the time you told me you killed my goldfish and then tried to tell me I didn't have a goldfish. And then he says, but why'd I have the bowl, Bart? Why'd I have the bowl? Producer Brian would be able to rattle it off beat for beat and tell us what episode. So we miss you, Producer Brian. Another current movie in theaters that we both saw, Won't You Be My Neighbor? A documentary about Mr. Rogers. I like Mr. Rogers. You don't get to go to the movies all that often.
No, don't go very much.
Do you remember what the movie previous to Won't You Be My Neighbor was?
That I saw in the theater?
Yeah, The Phantom Menace.
No, it was... why can't I ever remember that old movie that I saw?
That old movie?
Yes, I told you about.
Yes, but that doesn't count in the timeline of trying to place how long ago it's been since you went to a movie.
So prior to that, the last new release that I saw in the theater, I think, was the first Guardians of the Galaxy.
Fair enough.
So it's been a while. It's been a while, yeah.
You've come a long way from the days where I would drag you to the movie every other week
I
to see the
know.
latest movie about a monkey checking into a hotel.
I don't necessarily miss all the garbage that I saw in the theater, but I do miss going to the movies on a more regular basis because, yeah, I used to go all the time.
Won't You Be My Neighbor, the documentary about Fred Rogers, was fun and awesome to see on the big screen because it was cool to see all those elements on the big screen, like the show. And actually, since I'm such a TV nerd, in the beginning of the movie, near the beginning of the movie, they show the old PBS station ID, and that was so, like, I got tingles seeing that on the big screen for whatever, but what a nerd. But, folks, this is a really good movie, and it opened, like, limited, and I actually kind of went out of my way to see it opening weekend, and now it's playing everywhere because it's so good, but it's just, and it's not it's biographical, but it's not a biography of him.
Right.
It's about his legacy. It's not really about any one thing. It kind of hops around and tells you different stories and comes from different angles.
Well, but it's really focused on, sort of what he was trying to accomplish, with his television shows. It's not so much about, his childhood and his life,
right,
and whatever. They've referenced those, but it's just really about, just his vision of what he wanted, television and, interacting with children to be.
Yeah. And it comes at it from different angles, and I like how it touches upon, like, kind of stupid currenty things, like, was he gay, or did he serve in the military?
Right.
Did he kill people in Vietnam?
Right.
Like, that's a stupid thing you see on the internet, which always irritates me, because people like to take something that is wholesome, that is nice and genuine, and then try to, again, besmirch. Am I using it right? Yes.
You are.
Yeah, like they try to besmirch it with kind of currenty, salacious things. Like you always hear, like, oh, Jim Henson died of AIDS. No, he didn't. He died of pneumonia. Like, come on. Like, just, it's so lame. So that movie actually, like, tackles that head on. When I first saw that the movie was rated PG-13, I was kind of disappointed. Like, why would that need to be PG-13? But they used their PG-13 moments wisely and sparingly, and they added to the story to the film as far as making him more real and putting his life in context. Yes.
Yes.
I also liked how the film kind of, without being political, kind of draws some parallels to what's going on in the world today. And then I think it kind of takes you down, like, so everybody's crying at the end of this movie. I did.
Yeah.
Why are we crying at the end of this movie? We know Mr. Rogers is dead going in.
I mean, I think what got me was just, just seeing, and I mean, it's like you already know this, but just seeing, just what a kind man he was, and just, his persona was, that was him. That was completely him. He just, he valued children in a way that, not everyone does. And, he was just such a nice man. And so it just kind of chokes you up because he's like, oh. I
think it also, again, draws some parallels to what's going on in the world now. And it kind of hints at some gloom or dire situations that the world is in right now, and then it's like, do we still have a guy like him? Is there still a ray of sunshine? And it's just nice.
Yeah.
So I knew the day they announced this movie that I was going to cry at the end of it. I just knew it. Just like I know I'm going to cry at the end of Christopher Robin, which is out now. So I haven't seen it yet, but so we're watching it, and this story, I might have told this story with another movie before, but so we're watching the movie. I took my son to it, who's 14, and he liked it. So then at the end, they get to the end, and they kind of do a little what do you call it when you, like, stick the fork in? You're
twisting the knife.
Yeah, twisting the knife. Yes. There was a little dead mother theme at the end. My mom,
little
dead mother theme. And so that, like, I was already, like, tearing up at how wonderful he was and how crappy the world is. And then they go for, like, the dead mother thing, and then I'm, like, bawling or whatever. So the movie's over, and we're in this little tiny theater, little shoebox of a theater, and I'm kind of crying, crying and trying to keep it under control. And my son leans over to me, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I was okay, but I was this is the second time this has happened. I was mid like sob, so instead of just like, yeah, I'm okay, it came out like ah! In a theater full of people. And then I'm sitting in the front row, so like the whole theater has to file out ahead of me while I'm like it wasn't that traumatic of a film, but just so that happened to me years ago in Saving Private Ryan, when it just made me think of my grandfather, and I just got a little choked up, and then my buddy's like, "You okay?" Yeah! So the bottom line is, when someone asks me if I'm okay after Winnie the Pooh, I better not just nod my head.
That's right.
Just put my hand in my mouth full of honey. So you should go see Won't You Be My Neighbor, folks, if you haven't already seen it. I think it's something worth going to the theater and seeing. It's a unique theatrical experience to some extent. Not whatever. Diana, how many Dianas would you give Won't You Be My Neighbor on your Diana scale of 1 to 5?
It's a solid 4.
Solid 4. I'd give it 5 Dianas.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that measures exactly.
What about A Quiet Place? How many quiets would you give that?
How many quiets?
How many Jim Krakowskis would you give it?
It's maybe 3.5.
3.5.
3.5 to 4.
So when you go to the store and pick up the DVD, on the back of the DVD, it'll say 3.5 Dianas, says Diana from What's Your Favorite Movie?
Right. I will just say, I just want to throw this in about A Quiet Place. While it was really interesting, and I'm glad to have seen it, there are certain aspects of it that are so unbelievably ridiculous that like it's a little bit distracting,
right.
But I'm just going to say
it goes from A Quiet Place to a quiet what? I don't know what that means. So that's the current movie segment of our show. Please enjoy. And folks, if you've seen any movies lately, let us know and type it in somewhere on the internet and we'll find it. We'll find it.
Put it in that box.
So when we were trying to come up with a theme for the show, I said I want to do like some shows about some movies that I feel have a fan base but are kind of underserved. And as far as, being nostalgic about, I feel like a lot of people have a hard time openly admitting that they like a movie until they know, there's a significant amount of internet that's with them on that, which I don't have any problem. And I've proclaimed my love of Jaws 3 on here and got some nice feedback from other people who also love Jaws 3. And Jaws 3 is a magical motion picture that everyone should experience in their life if they were 9 and hadn't seen Jaws yet. But anyway, so one movie that I mentioned that I would like to do an episode about is Mannequin, which we kind of touched on in the last episode, but not fully touched on it, I guess. Or
you referenced it, but you didn't talk about it.
Not enough to put it in the artwork for the episode. But Mannequin is just I feel like Mannequin not a fantastic movie, not an awe-inspiring movie. I mean, inspiring enough to warrant a sequel, Mannequin 2 on the move. Starring Christy Swanson and Herman from Herman's Head. There's a reference, folks. Go look that one up. But Mannequin is 1987 and stars Andrew McCarthy, who now is a travel writer, writes for AAA Magazine. And Kim Cattrall, who is what now? A girl. Who was she on Sex and the City? She was the Charlotte. She was Samantha. She was.
I never watched that.
You're such a.
Right.
Oh,
Whichever
man.
One. Yeah.
Huh?
Whichever one she is. Yeah.
The extra slutty one.
Right.
Also in the cast of Mannequin, we have 2 people we need to point out. Oh, there's 3 people. There's G.W. Bailey, who played Harris in the Police Academy films. So good. And Meshack Taylor, who plays Hollywood. And ladies and gentlemen, as the boss of the store, I can't remember her name offhand. Estelle Getty, a.k.a. Sophia Petrillo from The Golden Girls. So we're not actually exploring Mannequin fully here. I don't know why I'm going into so much detail about it, but or are we going to explore it?
I don't know.
So you've seen Mannequin a million times.
Yeah, this is one of those weird movies that even as a kid, like, I was never like, I love this movie, but I've seen it so many times because it was one of the very, very few movies that we had on video cassette. So yeah, when it was like, oh, I feel like watching something, what am I going to watch? I don't know, Mickey's Christmas Carol or Mannequin. So I have seen this movie many, 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 many times. And, I mean, I enjoyed it. It's a fun movie. It's a little bit hard to watch now, I feel like, through today's, cultural lens.
Current cultural lens.
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to watch. There are a lot of things in it that are pretty cringy.
Such as gay jokes.
Yeah, gay jokes. The gay jokes are really bad. The foreign stereotypes are really bad. Yeah, it's...
But there's not. I find it when you talk about current cultural lens and things that are cringy now. But like, there's two kinds of gay jokes. There's mean, hateful gay jokes, and then there's like things that just didn't age well because we just laughed at, like, gay people weren't. I feel like gay people weren't real enough of a thing to even consider. This could hurt someone's feelings, or this is representing a portion of our population poorly. It's just gay. That's not a real thing. And then let's play the gay character up as fruity as possible.
I mean, that's the thing, so the Hollywood character, is so flamboyant. He's so over the top.
In case people don't know who Meshack Taylor was, he was the guy in Designing Women.
Right. Yes. But, he's just so flamboyant. And the thing is, there are, for real, people who are like that,
right.
So the fact that he exists as a character is fine, except that this movie, uses him. The intention is he is a punchline.
Right.
And it's hard to watch because like his character is actually like a really great character, and he's funny and he's kind and he's, generous and whatever. He doesn't seem to mind at all that the stock boy is suddenly doing his window displays. Like that doesn't, like he helps him out, he's actually.
In more ways than one is he doing the window display. Wink, wink.
But he's actually like a great character, except that he is intended as a punchline, and it's just it's hard to watch, and like they throw around the word fairy, right, which is upsetting. So.
But none of it's done in a... I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying none of it's done like from a... They're certainly not making any kind of comment on homosexuality. They're just...
No, I think they are. I
mean, well, okay. I haven't seen it in a while, so... Neither of you,
well, right. I mean, I think, exactly what you said earlier, sort of the cultural comment at that time was, gay is a ridiculous thing that, that's not a real thing.
Yeah, there's no such thing, really. That's like in the army and during the war, there was like 2 gay people or something, and everyone's upset about it. I was watching Monster Squad, which I had never really seen all the way through. First of all, there's a documentary about Monster Squad.
Oh my God, why?
Apparently, that's a big cultural thing. Again, Monster Squad sits out there for 30 years. The internet introduces several people who are fans of it, and now it gets its own documentary. And the documentary is called The Wolfman's Got Nards, is the name of the documentary. I apologize to any children listening out there who have just heard the word nards for the first time.
I think they'll be okay.
But Monster Squad tosses around like I think fag, we can say that in that context, and homo, like really just like toss it off like so freely. Like now that would be the plot of a movie that someone used the word homo or something against somebody. So but anyway, let's put Mannequin's mild homophobic aside, and it's great casting. Oh, James Spader's in it too.
Yes,
I can't remember
James
he
Spader.
Can't forget James Spader. And how many times have I told you this, Diana? the James Spader's the bad guy, right? His store that he owns, they filmed that like 20 minutes up the road from the.
No.
Yes.
No.
You're wrong. Why?
Well, so his character works for Price and Company.
Okay.
Which is the store that, the main store.
That the mannequin lives in.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So,
okay.
I mean, that was, they used the Wanamaker building in downtown Philadelphia.
Right.
The competitor store, which in the movie is called Illustra,
yes,
was filmed in Camp Hill.
Which is right up the road from here.
Right.
Yes.
But I'm saying Spader's character works for Price.
Okay. I got my characters wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, I've introduced it wrong to people. Every time I drive by it with anyone in the car, that's where they shot Mannequin, right there. It's like a Bonton, I think, now. But it is a very fancy Boscov. It's a fancy looking building. Have I showed it to you?
I've seen it. I mean,
it's a Pennsylvania landmark.
But what's hilarious in the movie, though, is that, the competitor Illustra is, presented as like, this is what we want to be. And it's so tacky. It's so 80s tacky with like the tinsel and the neon.
Yeah. It still all looks that way. It looks exactly the same. And it's supposed to be the symbol of like success or ultimate luxury. And it's a freaking Boscov, which is a dump.
Exactly.
Like the only store where you can go in there and still buy like a console television set is still sitting there on the floor. So Mannequin's great. And if you love Mannequin, you should let us know. And we should really fully rewatch it and just get into the complete Mannequin mindset and just... I don't know why. I just feel like obsessing over Mannequin. And Mannequin 2, which I adore. I love Mannequin 2. Have you ever seen it?
I don't think I have, no.
I haven't seen it in a long time. All I can remember is the cast. My favorite actor in the whole world, Stuart Pankin's in it. I saw number 2 in the theater. I didn't see number 1. So that's that. I can also tell you that when I was a kid, I had Mannequin on tape with Police Academy 4. But that's a different story altogether. So when I was asking to prep for the show, I said, Diana... bring us one of your world-famous lists where we list things and I just make comments on them. Diana, so are you saying that... So what's your list title?
Well, I don't really have, the list.
The list.
Like I have in the past.
List mini. List light.
List light. I kind of wanted to talk about this theme of, this coming from Mannequin... this theme of like I'm going to build the perfect woman or whatever, which is it's one of those themes that has been explored quite a lot in film. And it's really kind of creepy.
And it's almost always that direction. It doesn't go the other direction. Although I'm recalling a film called Making Mr. Right. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. I think I was trying to think of that and I couldn't remember. Oh, I should have looked that up.
Never saw it, but yes. Okay, so you had said earlier before the show you were using Pygmalion,
right?
But not necessarily just the training a girl to be perfect, or not even perfect of what you want her to be, but also the possibility of literally building a person.
Well,
because there's lots of movies where they create people.
Yeah, well, I mean, so Pygmalion from classical mythology was. A sculptor who he fell in love with his own sculpture. Fell in love with his own sculpture and then brought her to life by kissing her.
What?
Yeah. So, what a weird, creepy idea. To pick up on and then turn into modern movies. It's
over and over and over again.
Right. Like it's really pretty disturbing, actually.
So you want to do your list and then I'll add what I'm thinking of? Like we're just unfolding this as we go along.
Yeah,
folks,
I mean, again, I don't have bam list.
Right.
So what comes to your mind?
Weird Science.
Yes. Yeah.
Which I actually just rewatched. I had not seen since it came out originally. I saw it like a year after it came out, and I remember just like, whatever, and I've never watched it again. So I rewatched it, and I guess at this point in time, when that's, of course, a John Hughes film. Did he direct that? I think so. I think that was his first movie. When you know what came later from John Hughes of that period of the teen films, it's fairly weak compared to the other ones, I feel.
Yeah, I that's a movie I've only ever seen once, and it didn't make a whole lot of impression. I
Also-
was just like kind of ew.
Yeah, in 1985, when no one understood computers really, all they do is like, hey, let's make a girl, and they like cut out some pictures from a porn magazine and feed it into a computer. Which, first of all, how do you even now feed something into a computer? And yeah, and then the girl just like pops out, and then she has magic. Like, okay, is that if you make a girl in the computer, she has magic?
Yes, obviously.
That's why it's weird. And that movie also has heavy bouts of racism in it.
Yeah.
That's got some ugly stuff now.
Yeah, it's if you have not seen Molly Ringwald's article that she wrote for the New Yorker, you should definitely look that up, because she talks about, being in these John Hughes movies, in the 80s, which, I mean, she loved him at the time, but now she realizes, like, there's just a lot of kind of icky stuff
Right.
in his work.
And I started to read that article, and I'll admit I just abandoned it. It was like really, really long.
I don't
me.
think it's
I
overly
don't know.
long. I think it's a good article. And
Is she apologizing? Like, you can't,
no, she's it's sort of a, she realizes things can be more than one thing at once.
Yes.
And she says, that, like, yeah, she loved being in those movies, but they are troublesome. She had a hard time watching. She sat down with her 10-year-old and watched The Breakfast Club, and she had a hard time with some of it because, there's some kind of icky stuff in there.
Icky. Interesting. I'm not familiar enough with Breakfast. I think I've only seen Breakfast Club once also. Now I love high school movies. Like, if a movie comes out that takes place in high school, I'm like there opening night. But when I was actually in high school, I wasn't really interested in high school movies.
Right.
I was more interested in movies about tomatoes that killed people. Go ahead.
Sure. Sure.
So we got, so Weird Science, and then I would say, well, I don't want to take them all away from you. The only
go
one
ahead.
that comes to mind is She's All That. Is that what that was called?
Well, that's right. That's another sort of adaptation of Pygmalion. I was thinking, what I was sort of focusing more on the, I'm going to create something and I'm going to be so in love with my own work that it brings it to life.
Gotcha.
And then we can, go have sex or whatever.
Yay! Okay, now not that I wasn't interested. Okay, what else you got?
Now you're interested.
Now I'm interested. Sex with inanimate objects. Let's go. Episode title name. I can't think of anything else. What else? I'm like really racking my brain of crap, and I know, what else you got? Genies? No.
Well, so this is actually moving backward in time.
Did Jasmine have sex with the genie behind Aladdin's back? Is that what you're saying?
I wasn't going to bring that up, but
I'm appalled.
No. So the the movie Mannequin was actually inspired by a 1948 romantic musical.
Yes.
Called One Touch of Venus.
One Touch of Venus.
You've not heard of this before?
I have not heard of this movie that I'm going to watch later tonight. No.
It actually, so like the 1948 film was actually based on a 1940s stage play, which was based on a Victorian England novella.
Who knew Mannequin had such deep roots in culture?
Exactly. But yeah, all of those were variations on, I'm going to bring this thing to life, as my romantic interest, because, of course, real women are not good enough.
No.
So...
Unless they're played by Estelle Getty.
Right. But yeah, more recent takes
Have you seen One Touch of Venus?
I have not. No, but...
Can you tell us who's in it?
So, the lead guy is played by Robert Walker.
No idea.
Who was in Strangers on a Train.
Fair enough.
Okay. And then the statue that comes to life is Ava Gardner.
I know her.
Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah, 1948's One Touch of Venus.
Is it a comedy?
It is a musical. It is a musical comedy. But he plays a department store window dresser who,
nice.
yeah, brings
wow.
he brings a statue to life by kissing it, and she walks out of the store with him, and of course nobody believes that he's brought a statue to life, and so he's accused of stealing the statue from the store,
right?
Because nobody believes that she's actually alive.
Does she turn? She doesn't turn to like mannequin wood when people look at her.
Having not seen it, I'm not sure of all the details.
Doesn't mannequin, right? When people see mannequin, she turns back to a mannequin.
Right, yeah. He's the only one in Mannequin. He's the only one who can see her alive until the very end, which, again, like, I don't think we can understate how gross it is that, like, he is in love with a mannequin before he realizes that, she can come alive.
But doesn't everybody, man or woman, have like that kind of dream of like, the perfect mate, and like forming it, and like, don't you like sit at home and just like sit in your dark apartment with your yarn up on the wall? No, like, but doesn't everybody kind of have that fantasy of like crafting the perfect mate? Like the body of so and so, and the brain of so and so.
I guess they must, because it's been explored a number of times in film.
Fair enough. So who knew Mannequin had such a deep rooted deep rooted roots in culture, and also I wonder how much of Mannequin was based on any of that, or some dude sitting around was just like, let's do a movie where a guy screws a mannequin.
Yeah, I don't know how intentional. I mean, I think it was very intentional. Throwing back to One Touch of Venus, because again, he's a department store window dresser. Right. But did they sit around and say, hey, we want to do a modern retelling of Pygmalion? I don't know.
Fair enough. What else you got?
But I guess we only have time for...
We'll cram them in until the end.
Well, so one more we'll talk about, which is a more recent movie, is Ruby Sparks.
Oh.
What was that?
I don't know what that is.
You don't know what that is? So this is from the same directors who did Little Miss Sunshine.
Okay.
But it was written by Zoe Kazan, who also stars in the movie as Ruby Sparks, and her real life love interest, Paul Dano, plays the guy in the movie, and so it's kind of her take on Pygmalion. She said she wanted to explore this idea of women, as she says, being gazed at but never seen. So, so what it is, he plays an author who writes this character, Ruby, and she comes to life. He writes her into existence, and they become a couple, and and of course at first she's the perfect woman, whatever, but then as she becomes like he finds out like she's an actual real person,
right?
And he doesn't like everything that she does all the time, and he becomes upset and blah blah blah, whatever.
You're not the perfect creation,
right? So I mean, it's kind of...
Is this a comedy?
It's
lighthearted.
It's pretty heavy, I would say.
It's weird when you take something so fanciful like that, because this isn't the same construct, but the same idea, like the Purple Rose of Cairo, where the guy hops off the screen,
right?
But it's like not a. I guess it's like a romantic comedy, but it's like such a fanciful idea, but then the basis of like a serious movie, which is odd,
right?
To me,
yeah.
Yes. Do you like this, Max? What was it called?
Ruby Sparks.
Ruby Sparks.
Yeah, I liked it. I can't say that I remember. It's been a while since I've seen it. I can't say I remember a whole lot about it, but it is an interesting take on this theme, and it's nice to see it from sort of a woman's point of view.
That reminds me of a film that I like a lot that is similar in vein, called Delirious, with John Candy, where he is I think he was a soap opera writer, and then he like bangs his head and he wakes up in his soap opera, and then he can type whatever, so he makes like the hot woman fall in love with him and all that stuff. But oh well, that's a great movie, Delirious, with music by Prince. When you think John Candy films, you think of a Prince song.
Yeah.
Folks, that's going to do it for us on What's Your Favorite Movie. We got to go. The studio is booked by somebody else. But Diana, thank you for your list and your insights into having sex with mannequins.
My pleasure, Ed. My pleasure.
Folks, thanks for joining us. As always, you know all the stuff. Visit us on social media and share us with your friends and all that good stuff. And if you enjoyed what you heard, God bless your soul. And also, please tell a friend. Until next time, it's khaki wishes and cookie dreams.